what we're gonna do is we're gonna start preparing for our tallow aged beef. So what we gotta start with some really good, clean fat for us. It's all beef fat. There's a little bit of Wagyu in here, some prime cuts from some ribeye, some lip-on and whatnot. So we went through and tried to clean out as much of the protein off of it as far as the fat, gristle. So some really good cap fat meat is what we're looking for. Our first process is to go ahead and get it in the pot and get it rendered down. This is a pretty long process, but what we're trying to do to accomplish with that is we're getting it rendered down to get that tallow made. We want to purify it and clarify this fat so it's a really nice clean tallow to dip our cut of meat into it to age it. So like I said, we're eventually going to get to a point after this process is done to go ahead and do the dry age, but we're going to do the tallow dry age on the beef. So first process is getting this into the pot, getting it rendered down. I'm going to start with a heavy bottom pot. Very simple. We're just going to put it in. Just dropping all that fat in. We did one of pretty large pieces, but we try to cube it up to where it's pretty uniform so that the rendering process is a uniform process throughout for all those pieces, so we don't end up with large pieces taking forever. There is the opportunity for you to burn this fat as well. So we want to keep it a really good idea on the temperature. So about a medium heat. It's going to start to brown a little bit, that's fine. We're not adding anything else to this. We're not adding any salt or anything like that. It's got good fat, rendered down. We want good, like I said, good, clean, pure tallow is what we're going for. See, we're starting to render down. Once it starts to render, it goes pretty quickly after that as far as the process of it actually rendering. But again, we're not here to rush it. We want to take our time, slow and low. Depending on how much you got, it could take 4 hours, it could take 5 hours, it depends. Why are we doing what we're doing with the meat?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do it. We want to do it because we think it's cool. I've tried it a couple years ago with some friends, and we were going to do it for like 40 days. We ended up going about 110 days with it. And we were just trying to see how far we could go. And I never really did it before, so I just thought as an experiment on some friends at camp, we'd see what happens with it. So it kept, like I said, we went to go about 110 days. We took it to camp, cracked it open, and it was worth the wait. It was pretty cool. What's really nice about dry aging in tallow like that, you're cutting down the amount of oxygen it's going to do to the actual meat process of itself. The breakdown does happen nicely. The amount of waste that you usually have when you dry age is a pretty good amount of stuff you have to cut away, trim off, and either funk and whatnot. When you're dry aging in the tallow, your loss is extremely minimal, if any at all. Maybe a little trim has to come off, but for the most part, because there's just no decay that's really going on, but you got that aging process that's happening. And the flavor is just tremendous. Okay, so we got done rendering down our fat. As you can see right now, we have a nice good color to it. There's still some pieces in there. You're still gonna have some leftover protein chunks and whatnot in there. That's not a big deal. As long as you get your render down at a nice liquid. What we have here is we have another pot. We have our china cap, and we have a cone filter. So we want to filter that through there. So we're just gonna dump it. This will help it clarify as well. Nice clear liquid, that's what we're looking for. Once we have that liquid, all we're gonna do is put this in the cooler, let it solidify. All right, now that we have our tallow process, we're gonna go ahead and tie the meat. We're starting with a very nice prime New York strip loin rather. We're gonna go ahead and tie this up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie it about 4 different places, and then we're gonna suspend it from this rod. So when we dip it, we have a nice even dip. We're gonna candle it, basically dip it a couple times, see how it goes. Usually about 6 times is what I've been dipping them, works out good. And then we'll transition it into the dry ager and let it set, and we'll get back to that a little later. So we got our butcher's twine about 2 feet in length. We're gonna start toward the edge. It's a simple double knot, that's all we're really looking for. Nice and tight, just like that. And then to do it evenly, I like to go to the other end and then work my way in toward each side. We'll split the difference, go right in the middle with this one, and then we'll split that, and then that'll be more than enough to suspend this and hold it. I mean, you could probably get away with less, but my fear always is it's snapping or one of them breaking or it's just not enough support. The other one is if you just do the ends, it's gonna sag on you. And then when you go ahead and do that dip, instead of having that nice perfect crust, you're gonna end up cracking it. So if it suspends evenly from the bar, it's not gonna flex on you. And then we won't end up getting it cracked. Okay, at this point, we're gonna take our rod, take as thick as we want it so it's even, right? So when it hangs, it's even. We don't want it leaning one way or the other because we want that fat to roll off nice and even, get that nice even coat. And final, and then we'll go ahead and trim all these edges off, get extra string, trim all the excess off. Just neatens it up a little bit. So we got a nice even hang, easy to control, easy to dip. So we'll go over to our fat that's probably about the right temp. I usually get it about 80 degrees. That way it's gonna solidify and harden up pretty quick. Once we do the dip, then we're gonna walk it into the walk-in cooler and let it completely harden. And then we'll do our next dip, so on and so on until we get the desired thickness we're looking for. All right, so it's the first dip. Just like that, we're gonna flip it. Meat's nice and cold, so it's gonna solidify pretty quick. Once it's done dripping, we're gonna walk it right over to the cooler and we'll just continue that process over and over. We got our rack. As you can see, it's already starting to solidify is what we want. And we're gonna coat it enough that it covers all this twine and everything. So it'll get about we're gonna have about a 1/4 inch, if not 1/2 inch of fat on it total. So at this point we have the 6 dips on it. We're gonna let it solidify and harden all the way around. We'll go ahead and trim it off the hanging rod. And then we're gonna transition to our tray, a rack rather, and then we'll put that right in the dry ager and put them to sleep for 90 days and come back and see what we got. Stay tuned for sure. So this is the one that we had already dipped for us. This has been in since the 18th. Minimum 90 days. See how that works out. I've done a piece of Wagyu, that was 110 a couple years ago. They came out extremely well. So we figured with this cut, let's go to 90. Just take us around Christmas time. So Merry Christmas, Kyle.